just I didn't get much sleep last night. Yoli came in with his wife just for a day. They're seriously thinking of moving here. He bought a house here, and so anyway, he looking at the schools today. Okay, so let's go back to the very beginning, and then we'll pick up where we are now. Over here, he says that you have this concept at the very beginning on page Samech Zayin. I don't know if you have the same pages as me, but it's where it says Kavanas Talis Gadol. Just to go over this idea, he says that you take the right side tzitzis and you put them over your left shoulder. That's where we're at. And the other tzitzis, which is the left side tzitzis, they remain there. Now let's read his words, and then we go quickly over to the other side. Or I just want to go through the different headings of what's happening here. V'tifa yashlik beit tzitzios ha'yaminim al concept on small ma'achrov, and throw it around the back. Remez the nuk shalokeches base tzitzios chug, that what you're giving to the nuk are the two tzitzios, which are chesed and gevura. So he's saying behiyosa ba'ach, when she's on the back of zer anpin. So this is shefet that you're giving her apparently before the nesira. So they're going to stay in the same place. The horos al trin mochim the chub, to show you that you have the trin, the two mochim of chochma and bina, that's going to stay there. In other words, you have four mochin here, and you're involved with all of them, but two of them are going to stay where they're at, and two of them are going to go over their shoulder. I'm a little confused that he says that those tzitzis represent chug, but that's what he said, because I thought maybe it would be better with chetzet and netzach, but, because they're on the right side. But he doesn't say that. He says that those two tzitzis represent the chug, and the chub doesn't move at all. Shalokeches b'chazaras leponim, that you get on the backside. Now this phrase, it seems like this has to be the operant phrase for everything we're going to see here. It says Yekavin lahamshek mekachav, which is the very high. This is the top of the rosh, or the rosh. The chagat, lahamshek mekachav the chagat, from the very type of, I guess it's the very top of the parts of kol chagat, which is the middle parts of. It's the parts of chug of the chub denai, of the very top part of the nai. I guess the part that really affects directly zer anpin, and this coming from yasos. So all of this is coming. This is ima, abba ve'ima together, and then he goes through the different oros themselves. So then he has the nechi, the ruach, the neshama. He says that this is the nechi, which is with the neshama, the chai, and the yechida. So these are the makipim. Again, my question would be, if they're makipim, why is the neshama there? Because the neshama is not really makif; it's really goes in. But at any rate, this is the nachi, the ruach, the neshama. It's an aspect of the five different, the ranchi of neshama. It's the ruach part. So I don't know. Is that an address for zer anpin? I'm not sure. And so then it shows the oros. That's the nechi, the ruach, the neshama. That's all of these oros, chabad chagat nai. And then these are going in. Those are the oros. And then it actually shows you the mochin, and we went through them a bit. And then these mochin go through. That is the chub, the chochma de abba, chub, the ima, the bina de abba, chub, the chug de abba. So this is the chabad, this is the chagat rather, of coming from abba. Then he has the same thing for ima. He shows us the chub of the mochin. These are the mochin of ima. Chub. It says chub the chochma de ima, chub the bina de ima, chub the chug de bina. So it's the chub. So what is chub anyway? That's the whole package of mochin that are coming from ima. So first you had the penimistic idea, which is oros. Then you came to show the mochin, and you showed the most penimistic mochin, which is the mochin of abba, and then the mochin of ima. Now, just reading the top again, then where are they going? They're going to the Kochov, the Chagat, the Ma'u, Ben, the Hub, the Nai, the Bina, the Zah. So ultimately, as Rabbi Memran said in his teaching, is that they go to the same address. So it's coming from Bina. In this case, it's coming from Yasos, and it's going into the Bina of Zer Anpin, and then he shows you the three sets of Keilim, the Chabad, Chagat, 9, and all the different levels. And then the next part is that apparently you have this is part we maybe could have remembered from back when, but the Sa'aros, then there were Saros and Nimi and Kotzim. Let me see if I got that here. Here they are. The Ha'aros, the Sa'aros rather, which go as they never reach that far down. So he says, so you're saying that the Sa'aros themselves are really at the highest level because they become a Makif, or Makif Lizah, and then the Nimim, but he says the point of it is that they only go so far down. Shehem Mochin the Godless and Mispashtim ad Reisha Lizah Yamshech La'aba Ve'ima Lizah. L'or Makif, L'or Makif Lava. And then the next one is the Nimim, we went through that, and the Kotzim, all of these go down further, and the Kotzim in fact go down, that become a Or Makif to Rachel. The Or Makif to Leah was from the Nimim. And then he shows us this idea, and let's read it. He said, Yechidim the Tzlomim, right? The Yechidim, which is the highest level of that, the highest light, and now Shehem Bechinas Yud Shemos Ma. Again, the Yechidim, the Shlomim, look like this on the other side. There are 10 different names of Ma. Comes to Gematria 450. So it becomes an Or Makif Gadol HaYasher Shuhu Bechinas Talis. So apparently it has the Gematria of the word Talis, Shehem Mizmar Talis. So Talis is 4 times 45. Now 45 is always the number Zer Anpin. All right, where we got to, I guess I have to read it just to be able to get the flow of the idea. On the right side, reading Yekavin Lachamsha Ka'aras Atzitzia Shebizman Beis Hamikdash. So this is going to be the tzitzis that have techelis in it. Shuhu ha-techelis, the Heim Dalad Shemos Yaakov. So we see here that we have Yud Kei Vav, that's Yaakov, in different formats. Yaakov Shehem Muach Chochma Kefulim V'Shazurim. So this Muach of Chochma, which represents Yaakov, which is Yaakov, is the Keilim Kefulim, which is doubled over and intertwined with the Muach of the Chasadim De'ima, Shehem Dalad Shemos Aqua. Okay, so this is the tzitzis of the time of the Beis Hamikdash, and here we have them here. We went through them yesterday. So it's Yud Kei Vav, and then it's mixed in with the word Aqua, which is Aleph Kei Vav Kei. Not Aleph Kei Yud Kei, Aleph Kei Vav Kei, that makes Aqua. What does he say Aqua is? Shehem Muach Chochma Kefulim Shazurim in Muach Chasadim De'ima. So the Chasadim De'ima are Aqua. So that's what that is. Next one. V'yotzem ha'oros hanaz me'oravim im tzitzis shebizman hazeh. So he says these lights. He says what? You have to think of them as being mixed with the tzitzis of this time, which are white. V'hem dalad shemos aki. And this is strictly academic and not something as Rabbi Memram says. Don't ask why, because it's maybe there is a kavana behind them of how they actually appear here, why they appear here, but it's not in my hands or anybody's to get that. This is what the Rashash brought. Shehem muach bina de'ima. This is the bina of ima. Kafula v'shazura im dalad shemas aku shehem gavuras de'ima. So now we have a mixture of the mochin of ima with the gavuras of ima. Let's just see what the next one. This is where we got to yesterday. V'ikra mochim shehem dalad mochin dechub de'ima. So the real root, he says, of the mochin, which are the four mochim of the chub, which we just saw up above, I think. The ima yekavin osam mishulavos umisparm shanos. Shanos, and it goes with the years of the high of the king, the Melech, the Zah. Now, I'm not sure that I remember that. I remember seeing the concept of Shanos, but I don't remember it. So let's read what it is. It says the Muach Hub De'ima. So if all this flowing down, and you're starting to get this intertwining together. So the Muach of Hub De'ima is Yako Aki. It's the Chochmah and Bina. It's one Muach. He says, Hu Muach Hub De'ima. And then it says this Yako, Yak is a Yako Aki. So here's the Yud K Vav, the bold print. And then Aleph K Yud in little print. All of these are Yud K Vav in the third line. I'm in the third line now from the top. And it says, and then the Aleph K Yud. So all the Ks, let me see, the Ks are all together. All the Yuds together. All of these are together. Yud, Aleph, K. Here's a switch in the K. So first you have the K, which would go with the concept of Kasa, 161, if it had a Hey at the end. A Milu of Yudin, that's the way to say it, the Milu of Yudin. And then that's the first two. So it's like Kasa, Kamag, Kana. And the next one is the partial Kamag, which is a Milu of Heyin. And then the final is the partial Kana. So we have which without the Hey at the end, which is Yud double K double Vav. Okay, so this is what happened there. I just want to read that a bit. Igra Mochim Shehem Dalid Mochim the Chub. Okay, so all of those Dalid Mochim the Chub. And we just saw that. So those are the Mochin, the Chub, they're coming down. And this is actually what's transpiring through the Tzitzit themselves. That's the energy that's inside of them, I think. So now we're on the right side. And it said, V'yordim kol ha-mochem and naz b'shlish elyon de teferes de zer anpen. V'nisharim im konu oros l'tzorach leah. Now, konu is the number 156. So there's 156 lights for the purpose of building up Leah. So he says, Shlish Elyon, the Teferes, the Zer Anpen, this is what Zer Anpen looks like at any rate. And this represents the up. So everything that's up here representing is the energy that's in the tzitzis, coming from Abba Ve'ima and combining with the Mochin themselves, combining. And then coming down to Shlish Elyon the Teferes to Zer Anpin, that's where they go. Says B'Shar HaTeferes. Now what happens to the other 2/3? Excuse me, I read that wrong. B'Shar of the tar, that is the 600 lights. Yekaven lahamshich the Yisod. You have the idea of bringing them down to Yisod. So a certain amount of it remains with in the Mochin, the Misparim Shanos, Chaya Melech, the Zah, they go into the upper 2/3 of Zah, and this comes down to the lower through 2/3 of Zah. Yekaven lahamshich the Yisod, the Zah, the Misham, the Hamshich and the Rachel, and from the Yisod, the Zah, then that's a lotion of a Yichud that you want to accomplish. So I guess the idea is that all of those flows of light are going to ultimately come down to the Gimel Kli Yisod, the Zah. So these are the qualities inside of them. So then we go to the next page. On my page, it's page Ayin. And it says like this. We have on the left side, looking at the left side just, we have Aleph K, Yud K. So that's Ekya with the Milui of Hain. And he says, what is it? It's the Yisod of Ima, because the idea is he's going to go from the Yisod of Abba into the Yisod of Ima, and this is what the Yisod of Ima looks like, which is, the fact that we are using letters to represent the qualities of these Mochin is actually in itself a pella. Or we understand the letters themselves hold the light of the Ein Sof. That's the way I try to explain it to myself. That's what I think. To be able to understand what's going on as he shows you what the Mochin look like, and the Mochin themselves are Hebrew letters. So then he says, Gam Yekaven Shaderech Evarim B'Yisod D'Ima Shehu Shem Kona. So he says that we're we're going to bring derech Avram be Yisod the Ima. So they're going to go for the Yisod of Abba, which is what we just saw. These Mochin, they look at these combinations of Mochin. They look just like this into the Yisod of Ima, which is the name Kona by itself, which is to tell you that's a concept of what Kona is. Represents Ima, but particularly, ultimately, her Yisod. So this is a Lavush of the Mochin Yisod the Ima. So as it goes into the Yisod of Ima, is that what he's telling me? It has a Lavush. Let's see what he says. He says, Lokeach Kol Echad Midalad Mochin, which is Chug, Hanaz, Lavush Mi Yisod the Ima. So all of those letters that we saw on the previous page, all of these are actually the Mochin themselves as they're intertwined and moving down into the Yisod. So he says, and then over here, he says, Lokeach Kol Echad Medalad Mochin, which is Chochma Bina Chesadim and Gevurus the Das. He says, Mochin Manaz Lavush Mi Yisod the Ima. So as it comes into the Yisod of Ima, it picks up a Lavush. Behem Dalad Shemos Kone Misper Tzitzit. So there's just straight out this four times the name 151 will give you the gematria of Tzitzit. So now he says like this. So that's what that is telling us really where it's coming from. It's coming from this aspect of Bina, is a very high aspect of Bina. Just let me just run back there real quickly. He says that Yakav the Hamshek Mekachav the Chagat, just at the beginning I'm looking at it. The Chub denied the Yasos. So it's the top part of the lower part of Yasos, which is now pending down or bringing down into Zer Anpen. That's the whole idea. All of the Mochin and the lights that we're seeing over there. What are we doing here? Are we out of time, or is that just a pause? I never know. Okay. Okay, how many more minutes do we have here? 6. And are we going to start, is pretty soon we're going to get a chance to do the front part and the back part or not?
Yeah, tomorrow we can start that.
Okay, so maybe we can pick up something else on the other side. But at any rate, this is a lot to look at. He says, Lokeach Kol Echad Medalad Mochin Manaz, it's going to have a lavush that comes from the Yisod of Ima, Vahim Dalad Shemos Kone Misper Tzitzis, and so this is the next part of it. So after all of this Shefa is coming down to the Yisod of Abba, it goes into the Yisod of Ima, but when it comes out, it sounds like it's in the Yisod of Ima, it picks up further clothing. In other words, it's more hismatus of the light, more a mimilization of the light. V'yashlik, and then he says the next thing you do is you take the two tzitzis, and you throw that on the right side, and he says they represent the chug, the chesadim and gevuros. He says base tzitzias yamin al kasif small, so you put it from the right side, you put it on the left side. So that's what's happening. What happens when you do this? He says lahamshik beis shemos kasif. So he's going to show it to you on the other side. You're going to take these two names, which are the shehem chub, which represents the lights. Because the ekyas are lights, or they're makifim, that's a better way to say it. The lights are makifim. The hamshik beis shemos kasa shehem chub, together with yud volav osios sharsham shemisparam v'yishkav. Now I don't remember pshatnet, but that's the v'yesh. So I guess the idea that I remember this, it was v'yesh kaf beis. There are 22 letters here. Derech upon him, and you're going to take this, and you're going to take it around the face, the Resha de Yaakov, on the face of Yaakov, so I guess you have to cover over your face, that what it means? Derech upon him, ve'elo hem beis tzitzios, and the sharim teluyan lefonov. I read it wrong, so now we understand that this is a picture, because he said that. So let's read it again. Lahamshik beis shemos kasa, which represents the chub, because previously the chub is going to stay there. Im Yud Vav Oisis, together with its 16 letters, I count them up, he says, which represents their shorish, Shemisparim v'yesh kaf beis, v'yishkav, and they lay down, says yesh kaf beis, derech upon him, they're going to be on the front, l'resha dezav, v'elo behem ha'beis sitzios, on the sharim, These are the ones that remain there Taluyas Lefonov. So he says, let's look at it, and at the actual these two Mochim Makifim, these two kasas. He says Beis Kasa im Yud Vav Osios, together with its 16 letters. Mishorish Elu. So he says Hashorish. Excuse me. That throws me just a little bit. So he says Elu Beis Sitzios Hataluyim Lefonov, which are the ones that are hanging down on his front. So he says, and then here you see it. This is what they look like. And then he has a double Akia. So I would have thought the Akia is the root, and the other is the Milui, but that's what he said. So Derech upon the Resha de Yaakov, and they're going to be on his front side, and the idea is that they hang onto the face of Yaakov. So what do you have here is the flow of all of these Mochim, the ones that you take the Chug, you throw them that have all that energy that we saw inside of them, of those letters, and we throw them around the back that goes to the Nukva, but this part stays there. And what is it? Where does it hang to? It hangs to the Reisha Zeranpin. That's of Yaakov, of Yaakov, which is at the Chaz Zeranpin Lamata. So now let's see what he says the next part. Now, the Chug, which are Kamag and Kana, Beli Osius HaShorish, without the letters of the Shorish, Misparim Paru, which is the number 286, Kamispar He Gevuros, which comes out to be, so let's just go over that again. He says, Lahamshek HaBeis Mochin de Chug. And what are the Mochin of Chug? One of them is Kamag, which is the Milui of Alofim, and the other one, these are olives here, and the other one is Kana, which is a Milui of Hayin. So you're going to take those two. The add together, so he says, Beli Osius Ashorish, so he's just talking about the highlighted part in the text here. He says that's the only part that's going to move on. So he says again, they make this number Peru. So what's Pshat? And how do you get to Peru? He says, Gemispar He Gevurus Mansapach. So you take the Gematia of the He Gevurus Mansapach, which is 280. Im He Osius Shorish, which the 5 letters of the Shorish, that is, I guess he means of Mansapach itself. We'll look at it in a second. The Hakolo Derech Ach, and so he says, now the last part I don't know, but and also the Kolel, and it'll bring you to the number 286, which is Peru. And where is it going to go? Again, it's the Mansapach with 5 letters and a kolel. It gives you the number 286. He said the Reish of the Rachel, and all of this is going on to the head of Rachel. Vehima Beis Tzitzios, the Mitzad Yumino, Sheba Achrav, the Mitzad small. So I guess the translation is that these are the two, the right side tzitzis, the ones in the front and one at the back. He says, on base tzitzios, the mitzad yamino, that are on the right side, sheba achrav, and they should go around, I guess, sheba achrav on his back, the mitzad small, that are on the left now. So I think that means they threw it over his shoulders. So let's look at the left side. We're probably running out of time here. Kamag v'kana, here he shows Kamag v'kana, and then he shows the two mansapachs. So he says gematria mansapach, and he says Peru. It gives you the gematria Peru, and then he shows mansapach again. Not sure why. Okay, we'll pick up some more. Lots of details here in the Rashash Siddur. You need to see actually the flow itself. One of the things that I wanted to do, and I didn't have a chance to do it, the shir is very short, is to give you an idea of the way things are manukad in the Rashash Siddur. This is basic Kabbalah. It says that the Kesser is always manukad with a komotz, Chochma with a patach, Bina with a tzeri, Chesed with a segel. Tiferes is always some combination of the O sound. So it could be Vav O, like we see over here, or it just could be, but at any rate, it's all, what we call this, come on, don't blank, but let's go to the next one. The next one is the Shema, which represents Gevuras. This is, the Cholim. There we go. So, Netzach is going to be, all menukad with one dot. And then you see the Yisod is another variation of the Cholim, but this time it's a Shuruk Vov. And then you have the Kubutz, which represents Hod, and then you have this mixture which represents Malkus. So we're going to see how exactly that this Beli Nikud, but it appears without a Nikud, he says. Now if you look over here, just to finish this up, you get to the very beginning, because in the Rashash you see these combinations, this a lot. This is the flow chart. This is a picture of the Oros. And you'll see the Oros here, just corresponding to what we said, is that the Oros of Keser have a Komas, the Oros of Chochmah have a Patach, the Oros of Ima or Bina have a Tzeri, and in the middle, where you always, as the Gaon says, the middle always splits, you have this combination of letters. So all of this, we have to see exactly how they're going, and this represents, so at any rate, this represents the Oros of the middle lines. Then you have Chesed, Gevura, and once again Tiferes. Here we're showing it without, it just has the dots on the top. And then you have the Hirik, and then you have the Kubutz, and once again you get back to Yesod, which is this combination of Vovs. This is Baruch Fleischman, Tikkun Elevator Kolel.